Americans receive nearly 130 million robocalls a day, but that might be ending soon thanks to new technology. Plus, North Carolina sues e-cigarette giant Juul and wins how new restrictions will help keep e-cigarettes out of the hands of young people. Attorney General Josh Stein is with us for the next 15 minutes to talk about all that and more, plus answer your questions. Here's how you get your questions to the AG. You text those questions to the number that's on your screen. That's 336-379-5775. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about Juul.
Yeah, Tanya, good to be with you. What a big win for North Carolina teenagers and their parents, because this is an e-cigarette company, and a lot of your viewers may not even be familiar with it. If you don't have a kid between the ages of 15 and 23, you've missed this whole phenomenon. And what happened is we had driven teen smoking rates from about 30% in the late 90s down to less than 5% about 5 years ago. What a great public health accomplishment. Well, that's when Juul came on the market. It's an e-cigarette nicotine vapor laced with chemicals, and they designed the product, marketed, and sold it to young people, including teens. And it triggered a teen vaping epidemic. And those aren't my words. Those are the words of the Trump administration's Surgeon General and FDA commissioners. So I sued them. And yesterday we announced the result of that lawsuit, a court order in which Juul has to fundamentally change its business practices, the way it markets its product, the way it sells its products. It can't use new flavors without specific FDA authorization. And it has to pay $40 million to the state, which we will use to help teenagers struggling with addiction kick their habit and to prevent any other teenagers from ever starting.
All right, great win there. And I'm so glad that you clarified where the money is going to go since they're paying that $40 million bucks. So that answers the question right there. All right, we want to talk about something called Operation You've Got Nerve. So explain what this is.
The Medicaid program exists to help people get health insurance. These are typically working poor folks, people who don't have a lot of income, and so they get Medicaid. What we want to make sure with that, because it's taxpayer dollars, that there is no fraud on the system by healthcare providers. They could be billing for services they never provided, or they could be upcharging, saying that it was one level of service when it was another. I mean, we've seen some cases, Tanya, where they just were fictitious and they said that they had a patient who they never saw. Operation You Got Nerve is an initiative that we've done having to do with neurological tests. We ran numbers in conjunction with our partners at the Department of Health and Human Services, and we identified some aberrations in billing. And then we went in and did more of an investigation. And this is the fourth. We just had one with a triad area doctor that was charging for services. Actually, what they were doing was they're requiring services and billing for them that were medically unnecessary. So that person's going to have to reimburse the Medicaid system. It's the fourth in our operation. Overall, we've returned more than $1.1 million back to the taxpayers. We want to make sure that when you pay your tax dollars, it goes for the purpose that it was spent and not to line someone's pocket through fraud.
All right, speaking of fraud, we're going to also be talking about two mortgage relief companies that you have gone after because you say they were doing business practices that really didn't line up.
They weren't legal. Basically, there are a lot of people out there struggling financially. You know, there's some people who've lost their jobs, they couldn't pay their mortgage. And so when people get desperate, they will want to grab onto any lifeline they see. And there are two different mortgage relief scammers from out of state that pitched their business here. And what they did that was clearly unlawful is that they were charging people in advance for their services. They haven't delivered any value to the customer. They just were taking the person's last dollar. In North Carolina, that's a clear violation of the law. We've gone to court to put a stop to it.
All right. What people also want to put a stop to is robocalls. We're going to be talking about that next. We have several questions in the queue. We'll be talking about, should you even answer a robocall? Should you put your number on the do not call list? How do you make a complaint? That's all coming up after the break.